Okay.
Because this might be a city by city thing, but I can tell you that there are rules about having to get a special permit to allow dancing in your bar.
Okay. I can see that. Kind of like we'll use around here where Mackville, they can only be topless and
right.
like other or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can't have alcohol if they're topless or something like that.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I heard from bar owners that, if one person gets up and dances, that's fine. I mean, they're drunk, they can do whatever. But you can't actually have like a dance area if you're not permitted to have one.
Okay, and that does totally make sense, yeah.
Yeah. So their argument is like, it's not dancing. It's like, they're not doing anything. It's just guys. And the judge responds, well, that this place caters to that kind of clientele. Didn't explicitly say it, but he made it known. He's like, I know who goes to this bar. Which is just to say, again, this is 1961. So, like, people know at this point, like, the gay community is very much underground yet, but people know. They know where the bars are.
Right.
Quote, on Sunday afternoons, the place was loaded with cops. Sometimes they'd bring their women, but rarely did they bring their wives. Yeah, this is from the book LGBT Milwaukee. Is an anonymous person having a memory of being there. So how reliable that is, I don't know, but it's a fun quote. Tommy Mackey, our actual focus this time, was robbed at 7:30 p.m. on March 13th, 1961 by 3 unknown men. But he did not file a complaint with the police. His brother Tony actually reported it after the fact, and then when the police asked, Tommy confirmed it, but he refused to put it on the record. The 3 men knocked Tommy down while he was entering his garage, asked him his name to confirm that he was the person they were looking for, told him to keep quiet, and then brought him back in his house. His pockets were rummaged through, and he was tied to a chair. They searched the house and left with between $2,500 and $3,000, as well as a ring and gold cufflinks. Tommy said he would not file a complaint because he did not want publicity, but he did offer the police a whiskey bottle that the men had drank from while they were in his house if they wanted to check it for fingerprints. I don't know how you want to take this. Somebody breaks into my house, ties me to a chair, and steals $3,000 from me.
Not happy?
Not happy. And this is 61, so keep in mind, adjusted for inflation.
That's a lot more money.
That's a lot more. I mean, 3,000 today is a good chunk, but that's even more. To just be like, I'm not gonna file a complaint about this. Like, I don't know.
He probably, that tells me that he knows who did it.
That's what it sounds
just
like.
Doesn't want to mess with, raising anything.
That's exactly the way I read that too. Yeah. Is that he's like, I'm going to get in more trouble if I report this.
Yeah.
An informant for the FBI somehow heard about this robbery and reported it to the FBI, which the FBI doesn't do anything about that, but it just goes in their notes. The FBI did note in their report that the Riviera was, quote, a hangout for sexual perverts. The FBI knows what the Riviera is. And keeping in mind, of course, this is the language of the time.
Right,
like, people aren't doing like really weird things here. This is just the way they referred to the.
That was just really weird for that era.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, the FBI interviewed a captain of the Vice Squad of the Milwaukee Police Department about Tommy Mackey. They were under the suspicion that Tommy was still gambling, being a bookie, and they came to the conclusion after talking with the police that, he might gamble a little bit on the side, but it's not his primary profession. He's fully invested in the bar, so, he's not the big gambler you think he is. So the FBI was like, okay. They also talked to a U.S. attorney, William Mulligan, and he tells a similar story. He goes, yeah, we know that they've gambled in the past. They're not really known today to be big gamblers, so don't worry about them. Apparently, the FBI wasn't convinced after talking to the police and the U.S. attorney because they started pulling his phone records anyway. And they're finding phone calls he makes to Las Vegas, Chicago, Beloit, and other places. And really, like, they're thorough here. Like, they pull these records, they see who the phone number belongs to, and then they do, like, a brief check on that person to see if that person has any connection to gambling. So there's, like, a half dozen people they look in. I'm not going to go through that here. It's in the notes, so if people want to read that, they can. Long story short, like, they don't find anything here. Like, they're thorough. They're checking up on everybody this guy has called, and they find nothing. That's great. The FBI then stops at Andy Mackey's house. This is another one of these people.
Right.
To interview him. The FBI agent specifically times his visit to coincide with peak horse betting hours. He goes, that way while I'm interviewing, I'll see if any phone calls come in from people making horse bets. No phone calls came in. Really nothing too exciting happened out of the interview. Other than that, this Mackey brother, Andy Mackey, specifically said, we're not being shaken down here. We're not paying any kind of tax to stay open. Because there's always this rumor that businesses have to pay to the mob for protection. And especially when you're a gay bar, because there's the theory that you need the extra protection to get the police off your back. And I don't know. They deny it. I can't say that there's any evidence for it. I'd have to side with them saying they probably weren't, unless I saw otherwise.
Weren't what, charging for protection? Are you saying?
Right.
Okay.
Right. And honestly, in Milwaukee, I don't even know how paying the mob keeps the police off your back, because it never really occurs to me that the Milwaukee mob has a lot of influence on where the police do or don't.
Yeah, I think we've discussed this in a lot of episodes where it seemed like, ironically, the Milwaukee Police Department seemed through all of this to stay really clean, right? There's not a lot of evidence of them tightly working with the mafia to do anything horrible. Right,
exactly. I mean, if you want to go through really thorough, there's incidents here and there of bad cops. And generally speaking, the bad cops end up working in the vice squad. And because their entire job is investigating prostitution and gambling, they bend the rules for certain people and whatever. And I'm not saying that's okay, but in the grand scheme, like, it's relatively minor compared to what other police departments in cities, perhaps like Chicago, were doing. Milwaukee overall, I give it a passing grade. All right. Tommy Mackey himself was interviewed by the FBI on December 3rd, 1962 at his residence. He really said, like, we think that you're paying protection. We keep getting these rumors. You guys are paying protection. Now we're hearing rumors specifically that you're paying it to Joe Guerrera, who is this mob strongman that Frank Belstry brought in from Kansas City to shake down the gamblers. This is what we're hearing. Tell us if this is true. Tommy Mackey says, I know Joe Guerrera. We've met at the taverns in town. I see him occasionally at Gallagher's, the Balustrade nightclub or bar. And Mackey said that they'd even played golf together one time. He said, I don't know what Guerrera does for a living, but he's never threatened me in any way. I don't make payoffs to him or anyone else in any kind of syndicate or mafia, and if I was approached to do so, I would inform the authorities immediately. He was asked about the time that he was robbed in his own house, and he said, yeah, that's true, that did happen. I was robbed by 3 men in my house. They took $1,000 from my pockets and another $2,500 that they found in my house. He goes, the thing that you probably didn't hear was that my parents were also home at the time, and they were tied up too. Mackey said he suspected the robbery was ordered by a local man, who he would not name, and was committed by 3 men from out of town. He claimed he didn't know who the 3 men were. Again, so now we know that not only is he tied up, apparently he lives with his parents, and his parents are tied up too, which even more... Okay, you were being threatened, tied up, money stolen from you. That's pretty bad. Your parents are tied up and threatened too, but you're still not going to tell anybody.